It's typical of you to create a problem like this when I am really into my work. A little slow tonight, isn't it?
Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers.
And I'm Jay Reef.
Jay, it's slowly crept up on me how big a deal this one actually is.
Yeah.
I was like, because when I did the best films of the 80s list, which is obviously just my opinion, but I tried to factor in some form of definitiveness, even if, of course, it is just completely my opinion. I put this at number 1.
Fair enough.
It currently resides on my top of all time at number 11.
Right.
It was in the top 5 for a long time. I don't know why it got bumped. Do I? No, that's my list. That's like definitively the top 20. The top 21 to 30 switches around a lot, but 1 to 20 is immovable.
All right.
But The Shining is arguably the greatest horror film of all time. It's a huge King text, I'm a big King guy. Are you a King fan? Let's start there. Let's break this down. So are you so you said yes?
Yeah. I've read the book. I've read a lot of his books.
Yes, me too. I'm a big King fan. And so, and I found this to be a quite popular opinion, although you wouldn't think it to be. A lot of King fans that I know love both separately.
All right.
And can compartmentalize, because obviously King hates this film.
Yeah.
He hates this film. When it first came out, he was adamantly hateful of it. Eventually, Kubrick had to do like a lawsuit or something, or a strongly worded letter. And he said, you can say what you want about the performances and stuff. You can't say anything about the filmmaking.
Right.
And also, this is another huge thing. This is our first Stanley Kubrick movie. So there's a lot that we need to, this is a big one today, but let's stay with King for the moment. Let's start with King. I've taken my jumper off now. Let's start with King.
Yes.
I'm springing this entirely on you without any prep. Is there a favorite King book for you?
The Stand.
Oh, good choice, Jay. Good choice. Good choice. I knew I could depend on you to have a good choice there. Yeah. I'm a huge Misery guy. Not just in my personal life. Misery, absolute, definitely my second favorite. Yeah, no, definitely my second favorite. We'll talk about adaptations in a moment, but I adore the film, every single frame of I adore the film to no end. And Annie Wilkes is my problematic fave, as Rian informed me yesterday is a term, because we were watching Misery, and I just repeatedly was just like, oh, but Annie. It's just like I love Annie so much. Even though Say again?
I'm your biggest fan.
I'm your biggest fan. I'm your biggest fan, Annie. Even though they're a horrible child murderer. But that's besides the point. No, I love Misery. Have you seen the miniseries of The Stand?
No.
Pretty solid. Pretty solid. Not.
Yeah.
Not. It's again. It's its own
Wait,
very good thing.
Which one?
Oh, not the fucking new thing. The
Right.
Gary Sinise, Mick Garris directed one. That one's good.
Yeah.
That one's good in its own way. It's definitely the best of the miniseries of those
Okay.
90s miniseries. Do you then? We keep naming great adaptations. Do you have a favorite King adaptation?
Maybe I'd say I have a Doctor Sleep or
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about Doctor Sleep later. Don't worry.
or Gerald's Game.
Again, just excellent choices, Jay.
Yeah.
Yes, I will talk.
Oh crap! There's also oh my god, there's so many good ones. I forgot
Stand
about
By
Shawshank
Me.
and Green Mile.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. I forgot about Shawshank, my favorite film. I'm such an idiot. Shawshank. Because in my back of my mind, I was like, I didn't forget about Stand By Me. Stand By Me is number 3. Like, you fucking idiot. You have the Shawshank Redemption so-called as your favorite film, and you have this whole thing where it's like, oh, I wish I had a cooler one, but it is, and then you fucking forget about it. But bad fan, Tom. Yeah, no, Shawshank, Shining, Misery, Stand By Me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. I don't
So-
know mine.
No, it's fine. So it's the 1977 novel. Just tremendous, huge success. Carrie was a moderate. So, well, no, it was a pretty big success for a debut novel. But it was the film of Carrie, the wonderful Brian De Palma. Oh, I fucking love the Carrie movie as well. Anyway, we'll move on. But it was the film of Carrie that got him the tremendous success. And I think the film of Carrie came out when Salem's Lot and The Shining were coming out in book form. And so everything kind of boosted, and then the snowball that's continued for 50 incredible years. Continued 50 years of prose. And he's still, I was going to say churning them out. I don't like when people are like, oh, he can knock out a book in a week. Yes, it's not a bad thing when they're this quality. Yes, some are very, very messy. But let's not complain. Let's not jinx things, but let's not complain right now. This is one of the, I think also The Shining is a huge text for King people because it has a lot of the staples that people like to make fun of because they are quote unquote overused. I don't see them as overused. I see them as things he likes to explore, such as, alcoholism and recovery. Less recovery in The Shining, the film anyway. Yeah. But alcoholism. Oh my god, I've had a drink myself. Alcoholism, and how that affects, in this case, a family unit, as well as the whole, writer. Now, my big take for the Shining film is this is the great. I mean, this isn't a take. People say this all the time. This is the best film about writer's block in the entire world. Again, that's not, a hot take or anything, but it was when every time I don't forget, I this is a movie I've watched so many times that every frame is kind of ingrained. But when he started throwing the ball against the wall again, I thought, that is literally my thing. Balls and throwing balls against walls and all that sort of thing. That's my stress release.
Oh yeah.
I guess my biggest Shining film take, because we'll leave the world of King aside now for a moment. We'll enter the world of the film. Is that this is one of the funniest fucking films ever made.
Oh yeah.
I laugh. I was sat alone and laughed out loud like I always do it. How'd you like it? It's hilarious. And you were there, weren't you, when we watched it?
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. Yeah.
So we watched it for just before Halloween, because Leanne and Jazz, future guests at some point probably, were going to dress as the Shining twins, as the Grady twins. And Leanne famously doesn't like horror, and hence had never seen The Shining. And obviously it was just an excuse for us to all watch The Shining. But I said, Leanne, you're not wearing the costume if you haven't seen. She's like, I've seen the image. It's like, no, you're fine. We'll watch The Shining. And then loads of people ended up coming over.
Yeah.
And it was a nice little do. And I was so happy that people still like it.
Yeah, I know.
There was
Good.
no,
Good
well, I mean,
film.
it's an excellent film. But there was just no annoying person going, oh, this is boring, or this is long, or this is whatever.
Yeah.
Which I think, well, no, I've never seen it as boring. And I watched this when I was a very young child, like probably too young.
Yeah. I watched it quite young as well.
It just has a languid pace in that first hour that obviously, but then the second hour, I mean, my 10-minute stretch list, it got to a point where it was literally just back-to-back sequences. I mean, obviously we're talking about one of the greatest films of all time, so that probably will be the case. But just literally from the bar with Lloyd into 237, into the gold room, into the bathroom, into all work and no play, and then there's a bit of a break where he's in the, I say break as if it's not great, but like then give it 5 minutes and we're into the chase and Wendy finally cracking. I mean, it's just non-stop horror and tension and action. When did you first, do you remember when you first saw The Shining, Jack?
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, because I think I started reading the Stephen King books and stuff like that. And then my brother was like, oh, do you want to watch Shining in bed? So he stuck it on in the corner of his laptop screen, and I sat there watching it whilst he played on his laptop. And he kept on laughing at it, and I think I was too young to be like, why is this funny?
This isn't funny. This is scary.
Yeah.
This is very scary. And that's the great thing, is that it's humorous removed, but it's what do you call it? It's still deeply terrifying. Anytime that score by Wendy Carlos kicks in, the ding ding ding, that should, I wish that was my alarm. I would never wake up not in fear.
That's true.
Oh, no, that would be a good alarm. Dun, 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 dun.
Would it wake you up though?
Oh, that's true. It's quite ambient.
Yeah.
It's more ambient than anything.
Yeah.
It'd wake you up by the time it gets to Jesus.
Yeah.
So it's not a budget of 19 million. It made only 47 million. This was one of those horror stories of it coming out and not necessarily bombing, but critically reviled. Razzie nominations, worst actress. What were the other nominations? The awards and nominations. Here we go. So the Saturn Awards, which are a sci-fi awards, they actually gave it some actual nominations. Best music, best director, best horror film. Oh, this is fun. It won one Saturn Award for performance, and this was the only one it was nominated for. Can you take a guess?
Soundtrack?
Best supporting actor, Scatman Crothers. Excellent choice. Yeah, nice. Razzie, worst director and worst actress. Didn't win either. It was just nominated. I mean,
wow.
Right. Okay. So we sit down in 1980, and we're critics. I mean, I should have read some of them. We've got the Katrina Unit 1-star review corner, but that's IMDb. But what's the mindset of thinking that this is a badly directed movie? I can understand people maybe saying it's boring, or people saying it takes a while to get going. Also, we need to talk about the different cuts. You presumably watched the 2-hour UK cuts.
I think so.
Yeah. For years, that's just our Shining. That is the only Shining I've ever known. That's the only Blu-ray I own. That's the only DVD I ever owned. That's the UK cut. There is a whole 2.5-hour US version that like I think I can buy, but I'm not going to buy multiple Shinings. I mean, I'm probably going to eventually in life, but there's just a whole other half hour. And so, yeah, I can maybe see if this is another half an hour longer, that slow burn may be beginning to crack, because it's not got as much plot as Dr. Sleep that we're going to talk about later. But yeah, I just don't. I mean, it's easy to say now because it's a registered classic. It's in the National Registry, but also it's just clearly well structured. I mean, again, art's subjective, but so well built and well structured, and that you can have the gripes that King has, that in this Wendy is quote unquote shrill, which I don't think she is at all. I think that Shelley Duvall is just a very, very specific woman and a very, very specific actress who has a naturally heightened vocal tone. And that's just how Shelley Duvall talks. She talks like that in Popeye. It's not that she's in The Shining. She always has that, well, maybe I can read something later. And if you think that that's shrill, then that's you're just mocking Shelley Duvall. Yeah. It's not that Wendy, the character, is shrill, this shrill screaming dish rag is the term. I can't remember whether it was King. I don't want to put that on King if he didn't say that, but that was the big, it was some reviewer, but that was the big comment at the time. I'm going to find this because I want to. Jesus. Screaming dish rag. And Stephen King just went off about how much he hates The Shining. Again. Okay, here we go. Right. So I'm going to give him this, and then we're going to leave the King department, and then we're going to talk about the film. The book is hot and movie is cold. The book ends in fire and the movie in ice. Wow. In the book, there's an actual arc where you see this guy, Jack Torrance, trying to be good. And little by little, he moves over to this place where he's crazy. Put a pin in it. I'm going to talk. I read The Shining book. Yes, there is that arc. But also, Jack's not as incredible a guy as King makes out. And that's completely understandable because it's let's just say it as it is. It's a deep, internalized, rational fear of his that if he didn't eventually get as good a hold on the bottle as he now has, that he could kill his own family. And that's a fear that will keep you up at all times. Yeah. So then he goes on. And of course, with Jan Nicholson, he's quote unquote crazy from the off. Now, Jan Nicholson is my favorite actor of all time. I love every single. For me, there are bad De Niro performances, and there are bad De Niro films, and there are bad Pacino performances where he doesn't give it his all. Jack Nicholson always gives it all. That's true. Something's got to give a fine Nancy Meyers rom-com that he gives it his all. I could watch Jack Nicholson quite literally in anything. I don't think I could watch Bad Grandpa. Whereas even the worst comedy of Jack Nicholson, an anger management or whatever, he's really funny, and he ends up having a good chemistry with Sandler. Not great, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Subtlety, quote unquote, as not being a Jack Nicholson thing, is an absurd concept. Look at Cuckoo's Nest. Look at all manner of other films. Look at Chinatown. Most of that is him silently looking at things. There is the thing, of course, that when Jack turns on the charm and turns on that manic, psychotic quality, there's nothing else like it. And it is, of course, utilized with great efficiency in a lot of movies. And they're mainly the ones that he's best known for. Even Cuckoo's Nest. He has that, you know, somebody get a goddamn wiener in my mouth before I die. You know, the manic, you know, you can't put this hen house shit. It's that mania that can be turned on, even, and of course, it's excellent. It's excellent. I mean, but then it cuts, even in Cuckoo's Nest, it cuts to him and he's sat on the couch.
Yeah.
She's, I don't like her. Who don't you like? It's Ratchet. Don't like her. It's just like, and that's the arc. In this, even the car scene going, there is the flash of mania. And so, there isn't the arc here. There isn't the arc here.
No.
But again, that's never how I've seen the film.
I think, for me, the Jack in the book is a very different character to the Jack in the film. And I'm fine separating them.
I think, you know, people have said this before, you know, the reason that King, when have you ever seen King come after another film adaptation like this? There is no example. Now, there is the possibility that he finds every single other film adaptation of his perfectly fine, which I very much doubt to be true.
Yes.
I think it goes without saying that The Shining is a deeply, deeply personal text about a literalization, not literalization, a literary. He wrote a book about his alcoholism.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a deeply, and then if somebody turns that into just this big art movie with the human family drama, kind of lost. And it is just the story of a son with a psychic power, a mother just trying to hold it together, and a husband who always had it in him, always had this quality of evil within him, and then this hotel let it out, or the hotel chose him, and all that sort of thing. We'll get into theories. Rest of the King. And as far as I was concerned, when I saw the movie, Jack was crazy from the first scene. I had to keep my mouth shut at the time. It was a screening and Nicholson was there. But I'm thinking to myself, the minute he's on screen, oh, I know this guy. I've seen him in 5 motorcycle movies where Jack Nicholson played the same parts. And it's so misogynistic. I mean, Wendy Torrance is just presented as this sort of screaming dish rag, but that's just me. That's the way I am. I think the accusation of deep misogyny in this text is a bold one, Mr. King. Obviously, that there is a history with Kubrick of. I mean, even in this, there is these beautiful, beautiful statuesque naked models that we linger on and look at. Now, it's an easy thing to say. Kubrick lingers on and looks at everything in long steady shots. I think it's more obvious in Eyes Wide Shut when all of the men are like fully dressed. But again, that completely works for Eyes Wide Shut, because at that sort of sex cult party run by millionaires, that's exactly how women would be objectified and would be placed on ceremony. Eyes Wide Shut's a whole other episode. How do you
Yeah.
how do you feel about the whole King address there?
I mean, yeah, it's probably a thing where he's so personally attached to the story. And it's especially considering it's one of his earlier ones.
Yeah.
And like he's written stories that are similar in terms of covering writers struggling with alcoholism and stuff like that. But because this is the first one, really, I think that it's kind of a here's my baby and you've desecrated it.
And also, I think he's just come off a great experience with Carrie. I mean, there are large differences between the novel and the film, but just an excellent adaptation that brings everything that Carrie is all about to the screen. In many ways, I think better than the original novel, but that's a podcast for a different day. There are some people who agree with Stephen King and don't like this film as much. Katrina Unit 1-star review, Connor. It's a horror of a film, a lousy adaptation of Stephen King's great novel. It's about a family watching over a huge hotel. Also seems the hotel is haunted and starts to take possession of the father. The novel was very scary and well done. Kubrick single-handedly trashes the entire book. Kubrick was a great director, but he just didn't know how to do a straightforward horror film. He acts like this is an important film. He takes it way too seriously. Nicholson is good, however, but he's not in the film enough to really... Oh, sorry. He's good, however, but Duvall is annoying, and Lloyd was basically not accomplished enough to pull off his role. Scatman Crothers is good, but he's not in the film enough to really help.
Okay. I mean, my mom is probably more on the Stephen King side because she's a big fan of the book. She thinks it's the scariest book she's ever read.
Well, this is the thing. People like to point to the freaking Shining terrible miniseries and be like, yeah, see, Stephen, you're not actually that scary. The book itself is terribly scary. Yeah, you know, a croquet mallet, anything can be, well, not, that's a big statement. Anything can be scary in a book. But like in a book, there is long time to discuss things. I mean, people talked about books versus films forever. But I know what you're saying. The book is quite terrifying.
And then my girlfriend is also the same.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she has the book in here somewhere. Whereas I don't know, I'm fine separating them. I love the book as well. But I think the film is like it's its own monster. And I think it's a scary film. Book's scary. Yeah, I think it's just like two interpretations of a basic idea, basically.
Yeah, the haunted hotel and the cabin fever janitor for the winter is an incredible idea. And Stanley Kubrick also clearly liked the book. There's the famous story. He usually picks books as the basis of his films. And he wanted to do a horror. And his secretary bought him every single horror book bestseller of the past 5 years or so. And his secretary tells this story of, every 10 minutes, I heard a book fly against the door. Because he was just so angry that he just couldn't find this horror novel. And then he started reading The Shining. And the book never hit the door. So there is clearly something there, but also there's just a thing of adaptation. Changes, as we'll talk about with Dr. Sleep, which is obviously a film that's closer to its book, but also makes terrific changes that help that film be as good as it is.
And I think on the note of adaptation, I think a lot of the book is internalized thinking and struggling,
Mhm.
with and like flashbacks as well. I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Yeah.
That I think I don't. I think maybe in the 1980s you wouldn't really see much slow, self-reflective storytelling in a film, in a horror film.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's 1918, so the 80s as we know it, horror-wise, kicks off. Well, the big films that Kubrick showed his team. We've already talked about one of them, Eraserhead. And so that kind of horror vibe is very present, the Eraserhead vibe, especially, I mean, just the waiting for the elevators to shut and just that sort of thing is very, very clear. And also The Exorcist, they watch The Exorcist a lot, which I guess is the biggest predecessor up until that point of horror drama. 10-minute stretch. Let's talk about this. So I've kicked off with Mr. Ullman and the interview. Mr. Ullman just kind of throwing away the Grady thing. You know, the previous caretaker, killed his wife with an axe. Oh, okay. but that's all good. Jack's all in on this because my wife is a confirmed ghost heart stories and horror film addict. There's a big difference between liking horror films and living in the hallways of a murder palace.
Yeah.
At the Ullman interview, then I have closing day, and leaning into one of my single minutes being ice cream. You like ice cream, Dak? And just sitting down and talking through The Shining. And again, great love of the novel. That dialogue is more or less exactly from the text. So there is a clear, it's adaptation. So
I think the only thing from the change is that really bothers me is the guy's death. Well, the guy getting killed.
Yeah, Halloran dying.
Yeah.
Yes, but what an incredible death.
Oh yeah, I know. True.
What an incredible end to that character. Are you talking about that now from the perspective though of the Doctor Sleep film, and Halloran not being as present in it as he is in the Doctor Sleep novel?
No, because I think they dealt with that pretty well.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think Dickie needed to die.
So well, yes, in the novel he's hit, but well, this is the biggest thing. It's a croquet mallet in the novel, and so you're a lot more liable to survive a croquet mallet hit than a axe. One can find this to be true. So it's a croquet mallet instead of what am I saying? Yeah, it's a croquet mallet. So he's going to survive. Whereas there's no way that he's going to survive an axe attack. So I'm completely fine with Halloran's death because A, it's an incredible death. B, they're using an axe instead of a croquet mallet, which I much prefer. And also, it's still one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. I always forget which pillar it is. Even this time, I thought, oh, it's the one before. And then he completely walked past it. And I thought, how am I still forgetting which pillar, which pillar it is? Yeah. Next 10-minute stretch, the bar with Lloyd, the first time round. Lights out. It's my screensaver. It's my screensaver. It's one of my favorite scenes of all time. Probably my favorite Jack Nicholson scene, full stop.
Insanely good.
The coldness of Lloyd and the darkness there, and the somewhat monotone British sensibility. You know, Stanley Kubrick was afraid of planes. He never liked to leave England, so he's well known about he knows British people very well, and the multiple sort of terrifying British figures that are in this hotel in Colorado. That's never really properly explained, but there's Lloyd, there's Grady. Great party, isn't it? As a slight British affectation as well. And there is that cold, kill yourself with kindness British sensibility that is quite terrifying, especially in the service trade of want a whiskey, sir? Yes. Oh, I hate myself now. How on earth did I worked Halloween this year? And that's that next year. Oh, good outfit. I mean,
yeah, you got to remember now.
I'll sort that out. I mean, hopefully I'm doing acting work, but that's not going to happen. So I'll be still at the bar. So, and this comes out on Halloween, Jay. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween month. So yes, The Bar with Lloyd, and that is obviously wonderfully twisted and given a new dimension in Doctor Sleep. And God, I wish they got Jack. I thought Henry Thomas was very, very good. I thought Henry Thomas was great.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they got Jack? Maybe it would be too distracting.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, they didn't have to, like, if they had Jack, they'd probably CGI'd him or something.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess because he's frozen in time.
I mean, I'd rather they didn't, but I feel that they would have.
No, but they didn't use any CGI, did they? Because they just got they got a new actors, which was great. Yeah, who knows? Room 237. I think these were my first boobs on movie screen.
Boobs.
And these were the first. I'll tell you what they were. They were the first boobs that my mum never skipped through. Like usually when there was a sex scene or anything in a film, my mum would immediately jump to skip, and she didn't skip these. And I was like, oh, why are we not skipping? And then obviously I found out very quickly that it's deeply, horribly rotting woman being caressed. Just one of the most unsettling images of all time. Still sticks with me, burned in ember in my brain.
I think my first boobs on screen was what's that film with you know, where they're community work. It's American.
They're doing community work.
Yeah, and they have to like look after these kids.
Cheaper 2 by 2, 3 men and a 3 men and a baby.
No,
Role Models.
Yes.
Role Models. Yeah,
Yes.
Good film.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul Rudd. Yeah. David Wayne, good director. Yeah, Role Models, good movie. Yeah, I like Role Models. Yeah, Role Models is good. Then we have the Gold Room and into the Grady bathroom. Now, for me, this is the turning point. This is where we find out that the Overlook is pure evil. Now, and it's the use of the N-word, and you go, oh, okay, I thought this was just like spooky stuff. Oh no, this is pure evil, and it's horrific.
Yeah.
And again, that cold British sense of that cold, just saying it so matter-of-factly. No, this is a cook, you know, adding the profession as if that makes it any better. But it's got to be clear, it's the cook. You remember? Maybe. And it's the pure evil there shining through.
Yeah. Shining through. Yeah. No, I know.
Shining Through, a great film with Michael Douglas and Melanie Griffith. Into I lied. It's not the bar with Lloyd. My favorite Jack Nicholson scene is, how do you like it? You think that maybe he should go see a doctor. Absolutely phenomenal. Every single line is delivered with perfection. And it is that turning point moment where you're just on for the ride then for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Jack has gone full crack, psycho. He's cracked, he's gone. And from that point on, we're on for the train. And then the final chase and Wendy cracking herself and seeing things. Jay, do you have any other 10-minute stretches?
I think Danny exploring the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. That's one of my specific favorite parts, is just the sound of the trike on the carpet.
Yeah.
And then onto that is the definition of a specific favorite part. That sound.
It's probably less than 10 minutes, but when they're in the lobby, I think it's the lobby, where he's typing, and then Wendy comes to talk to him. It's just so good.
And it's, again, anybody who's ever written anything knows this. And she does the two worst things. She interrupts to start with. You go, okay, I've lost my train of thought. And then she does the absolute worst thing that you could ever say to anybody ever. Well, I'll come back later and maybe you could let me read something. You have no idea. And you just, oh no, Wendy. And it's maybe the one time you're on Jack's side. But again, that's my love of Annie Wilkes shining through. I'm a deeply psychotic individual. Which brings us to Tom's weirdly specific favorite part. The first shot. Just like you're panning and it's this beautiful helicopter and it's so smooth. And it's one of those things where you immediately just go, we're in the hands of a master here. It takes you through and into the world. And again, it lulls you in. That first hour is all about lulling, and it's transcendental and it's meditational and it's this slow, rhythmic, and the music is ambient.
Yeah.
And it's rhythmic and it lulls you in. Ding, ding, and then it kicks off again. In the Ullman interview, how about your wife and kid? What would they think about that? They'll love it. The first time we see the elevator, Tony, I don't want to go. Why not? Cut to the elevator. And obviously that's become just one of the most iconic images of all time. I cannot even imagine sitting in 1980 and just watching that and going, because then it doesn't cut back to Danny in the bathroom. It cuts to closing day. You're going, oh God, they're just going. Oh no. But of course, that was the trailer. One of the greatest trailers of all time. Just the elevator shot, and then a new movie by Stanley Kubrick and everybody's names. Oof.
Yeah, that's my really specific part. The shot of the elevator.
Yes, I think they did it. They could do it 3 times, I believe was the number I read. Because obviously Kubrick's compulsive with his takes, as we all know. And just phenomenal. I always forget how little blood there actually is. I always want a bit more blood. I know that sounds ridiculous because it's such a huge task to undertake. But I always want just a little bit more blood. And I got it in Ready Player One, and I'm not happy about that anymore. Close-up of Jack nightmaring on the desk, waking up, and then the funniest cut back to anybody in a movie ever is when Danny comes in with his bruises, and it cuts back to, why did you do that, Jack? And it just cuts to him.
Yeah.
I mean, we're off to the races. Halloran's decor, absolute king behavior. Then Jack's little dance when he's leaving the bar, when we're in the gold room being full sequence, it's just a little dooby-dooby-doo, dooby-dooby-doo. Excellent. How'd you like it? As I've just said, I think it's at the ball. When he mocks her, that's very funny. Wendy, darling, light of my life. And then when he switches on the bat, and he's like, Wendy, give me the bat. But then it kicks up again.
Yeah.
And then go check it out. Go check it out. Go check it out. And then Jack coming up from killing Halloran, just that hopping into frame. Great party, isn't it? And then of course the hard cut to a frozen Jack. Yourself? Weirdly specific favorite parts?
Yeah, the blood elevator, him tricycling around. Well, is it a tricycle? Him pedaling around.
Yes.
Red rum.
So many just almost immediately iconic things, and obviously it's helped by the book being a huge success as well. But just like Red Rum, the elevator, for better or for worse, the blowjob bunny.
Yeah.
Which also has to just be just an elaborate act because he's wearing a full mask.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tom's big question coming up soon. No, let's talk about favorite building or set. Obviously, it's the Overlook. Do you have a specific favorite part of the Overlook, Jay? A specific favorite lounge? A specific favorite area?
It's weird. I like the bathroom.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to own it because of that horrible green, but it's perfect. And later on, when we cut to the diseased, rotting woman in the back.
Oh, I mean the red one.
Oh no, that's great as well. Oh, sorry, yeah. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. Again, these just stark, bold colours that completely unnerve you, and just unsettle you. Yeah, no, great. Excellent stuff. So again,
I feel like they used the bathroom in the TV series Hannibal.
Oh yeah. It's Brian Fuller is a big Stephen King fan. I don't know if that extends to this film. I think it does.
It must, because the bathroom in Hannibal looks identical.
Use the ladies. Lawrence Fishburne. Yeah, excellent. Excellent stuff. So then we move on to best single minute. We kind of touched on a lot of these. I also have the driving up, as I said to begin with, the Grady twins in the hallway, Red Rum, axe in the door, and just the final ending zoom. Just one long zoom into that photo. Now, for me, we can talk about this in Tom's big question or whatever, but the ending, people always say that that's one of the great ambiguous endings of all time, whereas that's never been ambiguous for me. That's just been, he is now part of the hotel, and he has always been there. They have always said, all of the ghosts say, we've always been here. So once you die, just this expansive history, you're just in it, and you've been sucked in, and you're there forever. I've never been.
Yeah, I wouldn't really call it ambiguous.
Maybe it's ambiguous whether Jack will come back. Well, we're going to actually talk about an alternate ending a little later, which leads us on to what's next on this little show we do. Best line. I mean, so much to talk about here. Jay, why don't you kick us off before I steal all the best ones?
Okay, here's Johnny.
Yes, here's Johnny. Yes. Here's Johnny. Red rum. Yes, those are locked. You cannot use those anymore.
No. Right. Yeah, you have one.
Okay.
Whilst I pull up some lines.
Words of wisdom, Lloyd, my man. Words of wisdom. I also have here, Wendy, let me explain something to you. Whether you come in here and interrupt me, you're breaking my concentration. You're distracting me, and it'll then take me time to get back to where I was. Understand? Yeah, fine. We're going to make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here and you hear me typing, whatever you hear me do, or don't hear me typing, whatever the fuck you hear me doing when I'm in here, that means I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that? Yeah, good. Now, why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Jesus. Come and play with us, Danny.
I like you, Lloyd. I always liked you. You're always the best of them. Best goddamn bartender from Timbuktu to Portland, Maine, or Portland, Oregon, for that matter. White man's burden, Lloyd. White man's burden. Great party, isn't it? And yeah, I'm gonna end that. Great party. Great podcast, isn't it? It's a bit immodest. Any other lines, Jay, before we move on?
Some places are like people, some shine and some don't.
Yeah, that's dope. I love just he's having to break this down to a small child. Not that they know, it's not that he knows everything anyway, but and so obviously as an audience it helps, and it's just completely believable exposition. And I love the way it's described. It's like burnt toast. It's like when somebody burns toast, and it's you know, the smell is in the air.
Yeah, when he described his dream about murdering Wendy and Danny.
I had a nightmare.
Yep.
Yes, very.
But I didn't just kill you. I cut you up in little pieces.
What's the change, Jay? Do you have any changes?
I mean, we said it earlier. It would just be Dickie
let
living.
Halloran live. I've got a couple. I've never I mean, what the fuck is this blue titles? It's just so basic. Yeah. It's just so shit.
Yeah.
The blue title credit roll, and it's also so fast. I mean, I can read it all.
Yeah, it's quite iconic now, though.
It's iconic.
Yeah, but it's weird.
It's just like, what? Come on.
Yeah. They should have had comic sans.
Yeah. Oh no, that would be good. They should have used the Cool Cat Saves the Kids music.
Yeah.
Cool
no.
Cat likes to rock and roll. I've got another joke change. The Advocar. What a horrible drink. Why are they drinking Advocar? And also, I completely agree. That is hard to get out, and it is terrible. Here's a couple of actual ones. I've never been a fan of Jack looking into the maze and then cut to the eagle eye shot of them in the maze, but you're not sure whether they're in the toy maze, the model maze. I don't think it's very clear, and it feels a rushed idea. And I don't think they convey that very well in a film where everything is conveyed to absolute perfection. Also, I think I'd give my goddamn soul for a glass of beer is far too on the nose. And I'm not saying that this is a subtle movie, but it is kind of just, I believe he'd say it, but also just kind of feels out of
yeah.
I don't believe that Wendy would fall asleep, even with the knife. Oh no, it's Danny that brings the knife. Wendy just completely falls asleep after she locks Jack in the freezer. She locks her psychotic husband in the freezer. I know that there's literally nothing else she can do because of she needs the snow cat and all that sort of thing. But she doesn't know that Halloran's coming. She doesn't know that this is ending tonight.
Yeah.
So what's the plan? Just let him sleep it off?
I guess.
That's the sort of screaming dish rag stuff where you're like, not even screaming dish rag, lazy dish rag. It's like
Yeah.
just going to bed. Go on, Wendy.
Screaming the spot.
Yes. Which then leads us on to, I believe we're going to talk about an alternate ending. Oh no, anything left from your notes, Jay?
I don't think so.
I've got a couple of things. We've talked about the novel. I've put here, when I die, put me in an Overlook photo. That should be a thing where you can, I mean, people have definitely done that. Let's talk about Dr. Sleep. Now, Dr. Sleep was a book that I thought was perfectly fine, and I liked parts of, but overall was pretty dull. Well, no, dull. Dull is completely the wrong word. Stephen King books are never dull.
No.
It was bad in parts.
Mm.
Whereas the film, absolutely incredible, absolutely fucking rules. We talked about Gerald's Game. We talked about Mike Flanagan. Well, no, we mentioned Gerald's Game. Now, when Gerald's Game was being made, it sort of, he did all the interviews, and you thought it was the regular, you know, Stephen King, sorry, the regular, you know, movie interview bullshit. Yeah, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. Yeah. But then obviously we've come to learn that he is deeply, deeply a huge fan, a huge Dark Tower nerd as well.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Sleep was a big challenge, clearly, you know, because they're not only doing the adaptation of the novel Dr. Sleep, but also he's bringing in this film. And as we've discussed already, they are two wildly different beasts.
Yeah.
And he pulled it off. He just so completely pulled it off. I mean, it's just inspiring. Yeah, it is pretty inspiring, but just phenomenal. Just
great film.
Great film.
At the cinema.
Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't see it at the cinema. I saw your Blu-ray. You let me borrow your Blu-ray because I had COVID-19, and you said, "Are there any Blu-rays you want to watch whilst you're in your isolation?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll watch your Dr. Sleep." And I was like, "Oh, this is great. I should have watched this at the cinema."
Yeah.
I can't remember why I didn't. I think I know why I didn't, because I thought it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
I think I was stupidly naive with Flanagan. I thought, yeah, Flanagan, you've bit off more than you can chew. But I was wrong. I was so very, very wrong. And I apologize, Mike, I apologize. Which leads us on to alternate ending corner. So there is one. So we don't always get alternate endings. So obviously there's the book ending, where Jack saves everybody by blowing up the boiler, which is a perfect ending in its own for that arc. So this film, 3 days after the release of the film, Stanley Kubrick and Warner Brothers ordered all projectionists to cut out about 2 minutes from the end of the film and send the footage back to the studio. Starting after the close-up of Frozen Jack, the camera goes to a pullback shot with part of a state trooper's car and the legs of troopers walking around in the foreground, pardon me. We then cut to the hotel manager, Stuart Ullman, walking down a hospital hallway to the nurse's station to inquire her about Danny and Wendy. He's told they're both doing well and proceeds to Wendy's room. After some gentle conversation, he tells Wendy that searchers have been unable to locate any evidence of the apparitions she saw. Additionally, Jack's body cannot be located. We then cut to the camera silently roaming the halls for about a minute until it comes across the photographs. So, just not needed.
No, it's not.
It's just completely superfluous, and it's a completely understandable cut.
Yeah, I feel like you could probably get most of that. Well, you do just from, I don't know, in your head.
Yeah.
Just from seeing the photo. Yeah.
We don't need the body was taken. It's just unnecessary. And yeah, and also it starts like begging questions. Then the body, who took the body? Did the ghost take the body? Whereas with I always saw it as his dead body. was obviously eventually found or taken by people, but his soul is in the Overlook. It's not that his literal body isn't. It's like with the Grady's. They found the Grady's, so and their bodies were then taken away and buried or whatever.
Yeah.
So they find the bodies. It's the souls that live on in the Overlook. So so not finding the body doesn't make any sense at all in the logic that has been brought up. Obviously, it's ghost logic, so people just can make up what they want. But I like logic. It annoys me when there's no logic. Okay. In Tom's, a few fun facts before we do Tom's big question. So a lot of this stuff people already know. For the scene in which Jack breaks down the bathroom door, the props department built a door that could be easily broken. However, Jack Nicholson had worked as a volunteer fire marshal and tore it apart too easily. So then had to make effectively just a regular door. The throwing around of the tennis ball was Jack Nicholson's idea. The script originally only specified Jack is not working. Tony Burton, who had a brief role as Larry Durkin, the garage owner, arrived on set one day carrying a chess set. Pardon me. In hopes of getting in a game with someone during a break from filming. Stanley Kubrick, an avid chess player who had in his youth played for money, noticed the chess set. Despite production being behind schedule, Kubrick proceeded to call off filming for the day and engage in a set of games with Burton. Burton only managed to win one, but nevertheless, Kubrick thanked him, since it had been some time that he'd played against a challenging opponent.
That's nice.
We talked about the book, Finding the Book. Stanley Kubrick had envisioned Shelley Duvall as his more timid, dependent version of Wendy Torrance from the very beginning. However, Jack Nicholson, after reading the novel, wanted Jessica Lange for the role of Wendy and even recommended her to Kubrick, as he felt she fit Stephen King's version of the character. After explaining the changes he had made, Kubrick convinced him that Duvall was the correct choice, as she best suited the emotionally fragile Wendy he had in mind. Many years later, Nicholson told Empire magazine he thought Duvall was fantastic and called her work in the film the toughest job that any actor that I have seen had.
That's very nice. Yeah.
According to Vivian Kubrick in her making of, Stanley Kubrick's secretary spent weeks, if not months, typing dozens of pages. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, for the scene where Wendy discovers those pages that Jack has been typing. There is a great deal of confusion regarding this film and the number of retakes of certain scenes. According to the Guinness Book of Records, the scene where Wendy is backing up the stairs, swinging the baseball bat, was shot 127 times, which is a record for the most takes of a single scene. However, both Steadicam operator Garrett Brown and assistant editor Gordon Stainforth say this is incorrect. The scene was shot about 35 to 45 times. So, who the fuck knows?
Who knows?
There was no air conditioning on the sets, meaning it would often become very hot. The hedge maze set was stifling. Actors and actresses and crew would often strip off as much of the heavy clothing that they were wearing as quickly as they could once the shot was finished. This is probably my favorite. Well, no, I've got a couple of favorites. Stephen King was first approached by Stanley Kubrick about making this movie via an early morning phone call. King, suffering from a hangover, shaving, and at first thinking one of his kids was injured, was shocked when his wife told him that Kubrick was really on the phone. King recalled that the first thing Kubrick did was to immediately start talking about how optimistic ghost stories are, because they suggest that humans survive death. What about hell? King said. Kubrick paused for several moments before finally replying, I don't believe in hell. King replied, stating that there are people who believe in hell and that they fear it more than death itself. This was tremendously effective in helping Kubrick understand the feel of the story.
Yeah, that makes sense. Smart.
And in its own way, of course, the Overlook is its own version of hell. And it's very sad that there are people who aren't killers, who are trapped there. During the grueling shoot, the Wimbledon tennis tournament was in full swing in the UK, and Jack Nicholson, an avid tennis fan, had to find a way to take time out to attend. So he feigned back pain and asked for a few days off. Good to know that Jack likes. There's more. Because of his star status, Stanley Kubrick granted him the break. Unfortunately for Jack, Kubrick later saw him on a production TV set, seated in the Wimbledon crowd, flanked by 2 women. Kubrick was apparently furious about the whole incident. Despite the critical success, we talked about the Razzies, didn't we, earlier?
Yeah.
Danny Lloyd grew up to be a professor of biology.
No.
At a community college in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Tagline rundown. The tide of terror that swept America is here. That was the UK poster. Iconic terror from the #1 best-selling writer. A masterpiece of modern horror. Stanley Kubrick's epic nightmare of horror. The horror is driving him crazy. Don't like that one. He came as the caretaker, but this hotel had its own guardians who'd been there a long time. It's okay. I like all the masterpiece of modern horror stuff.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Tom's big question. Now, we don't need to go into this, but let's break down the big, is it ghosts or is it cabin fever? We're going to do this we're going to do all of these at breakneck speed. Is it ghosts or is it cabin fever? It's ghosts because the ghosts open the fridge door. There are stupid theories that say that Wendy opened her own fridge door because she wants to be killed. That is stupid. 2 Grady's, they get Grady wrong, and other doubles and all that sort of thing. I think it's just but here's the thing, I don't want to even talk about any of this. It's all Kubrick fucking with you. These people who break it down, Room 237 is the biggest load of shit I've seen in a long time. Because it's just people fucking with you. It's Kubrick putting all that in there, doing 2 Grady's, doing all this sort of thing, having Jack Nicholson hold a Playboy edition from 1962 or whatever it is. It's these little things that build a world of mystery and intrigue that are completely unknowable. That's the way I've always seen it, and that's the way I think it was made. I don't know if you feel different. I don't know if you...
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who has the best fashion? I'm going to say Ullman's Closing Day, and the worst fashion is Shelley Duvall's Paddington Bear outfits when she comes to see him when he's writing. So it's called The Shining by Halloran and his aunt. Is it aunt? I think
so.
And that's just what they call it. Does everybody call it that?
Wait. I think we'd probably have to see Dr. Sleep. Do they call it?
They call it like The Gift. And then Dan says to Abra, I called it The Shining. And that's like the trailer. And I was just thinking that the other day. When does he start writing All Work and No Play Makes Jack a Dull Boy? Like, at what point? Because I don't think he's writing it when she comes in to check on him. I think he's attempting to write his great American novel at that point. But that quickly fades. That's attempt and segues into All Work and No Play Makes Jack a Dull Boy. Jay, The Shining.
Yeah. Fantastic film.
A fantastic film. An unknowable film, a masterpiece, an enigma. This is what I wrote on the best of the 80s. This is what I said. The ultimate enigma of a film, lending to multiple decades of research into signs and the like, and one can view it as such, or one can simply watch it as a pure horror film. The simple tale of a man going insane and eventually succumbing to a murderous urge to murder his entire family. Kubrick's work here is just incredible, naturally living up to his often given title as an absolute genius of the world of cinema. A most worthy film to top this list.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Because I don't think
What?
I do agree anymore that it's the best film of the 1980s. Amadeus was second. I don't know. But again, that's the huge problem with me attempting those lists, which I think are good for people to see what I like and get a great, like the ones where you get to know the movies that I really like are like 15 to 10, and where you're like, oh, he put in What Lies Beneath. There are surely lots of better movies than What Lies Beneath. And I completely agree. I don't think Pulp Fiction's on that list, which feels insane. But
That wasn't 80s, was it?
say again?
That wasn't 80s.
No, I'm just talking about I did every week. Sorry, I did every decade. Right. Okay, so that's the Shining episode done, everybody. That's the Shining episode done. I'm gonna see what Carruthers, Leggetter, and Whoever on Blogspot. Let's see what 80s. It's not coming out. Decade. Here we are. Films of the decade, 80s. Oh, okay. So I've often said that the 80s are the greatest decade for comedy. So I gave a whole 15 to comedy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the 15 dramas were Rain Man, An American Werewolf in London, which is a huge comedy. So I don't, again, what the fuck am I doing? The Thing, Raging Bull, Dead Poets Society, The Verdict, The Big Chill, The King of Comedy, Heartburn, Broadcast News, Stop Making Sense, Die Hard, Stand By Me, Amadeus, The Shining. Pretty solid list. Pretty good list, actually. Then comedy. 15, Risky Business, Coming to America, Dear on Scoundrels, Naked Gun, Clue, National Lampoon's Vacation, This Is Spinal Tap, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Fletch, Ghostbusters, Trading Places, Scrooged, A Fish Called Wanda, Tootsie, Airplane, and Caddyshack. Then 4 of my favorite films of all time are comedy dramas. So I did these as the top 4 in no particular order. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Crimes and Misdemeanors, When Harry Met Sally, Terms of Endearment.
Yeah.
So look at these top tier honorable mentions. Back to the Future was an honorable mention, you know.
Oh my.
Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
It's lots of great. I think we've come to realize, Jay, that it's naive to attempt.
Yeah.
Such an endeavor. Jay, that's The Shining. I don't know if you are on another Halloween episode. No, you're not. If you are on another Halloween episode, you have been, and we don't know yet. Who knows? Could be. Who knows? That was a bit of West Side Story feedback. And you can listen to our West Side Story podcast whenever you want. We're on Patreon. We're on everything. Follow us on everything. Blah, 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 blah. Jay, we will see you next. Well, we'll see you next on our weekly Twilight Zone episodes, which are what's coming out. So this comes out Tuesday, the 25th of October, which means that the oh, you have got to be kidding me. September, October, November, December, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely missed a month on when I was scheduling all of the Twilight Zone episodes, which is great. No, I'll tell you what I did. This is thrilling stuff for you all. I called it. I did September. I did all of October as September and all of. this is boring bullshit that none of you are interested in. Jay, The Shining's great. There will be more
Shining.
Kubrick in the new year. Definitely Eyes
Yep.
Wide Shut. I love Eyes
Yep.
Wide Shut.
Me too.
Jay, you're great. Twilight Zone every week. The Shining. The Shining. The
The
Shining.
Shining.